Hello, today I'm be going over 3 Lavos builds. So I'm just going to show off all 3 builds here and then do the missions for all 3, so in the second half of the video. For Archon shards, all of them are going to use these 3 ability duration shards and 1 yellow Tau Forge casting speed shard. However, the first 2 are persistence builds, so they will be using this blue armor shard. If you do not want to use persistence, or if you just want to use the 3rd build, feel free to replace this with another red ability duration shard, and of course, feel free to Tau Forge the duration shards if you want. However, there is no need to Tau Forge this blue shard, as we just basically need it for 25 armor to get over the 700 armor for persistence. So, first build here, basically build using Sickening Pulse and Spamming Gas. Basically, we just use all abilities to apply gas to enemies, and then Sickening Pulse to get the max 10 stacks on all the enemies. They die, leave gas clouds everywhere. And yeah, that's basically the gist of it. We are using both augments for as much ability cooldown reduction as we can. If you prefer to have mecha pulse, to have all 4 mecha, you can replace lingering transmutation here if you want to, although I find that this does actually make quite a big difference for the cooldown reduction, so up to you. Besides that, we are using Archon continuity because, again, we will be spamming 1 for the cooldown reduction from Swift Bite. This applies toxins, so it'll also have some passive armor strip from corrosive. And while we aren't going to be using heat, I'm just using this because might as well. If you really want to, you can just put regular vitality here. Similarly with stretch, if you wanted to just put Archon stretch, you can. I'll honestly just leave it there because might as well. Augmented for some extra strength. The same thing with Precision Intensify for some extra strength on our 4 here. Yeah, besides that, we have nearly max range, fairly high duration, and just decent strength because obviously we get plus 90 for Precision and then plus another 60 from Augmented. We are not using Prime Sure-Footed because his passive gives you SAS immunity whenever you pick up an orb. SAS immunity for 10 seconds, so basically you will pick up orbs more than every 10 seconds. Especially if you're using anything with Synth Construct on it. Yeah, that's it for the first build here. Second build, very similar. Except for, as you can see, we are using now Mecha Pulse instead of Precision Intensify. Because we are making up at least most of that. Or not most, like, what, 54 we get from Impetus. Since we don't have an augment on this build, we can get 9 stacks of Impetus, meaning we get 54% ability strength and 27 ability efficiency. So that 54 is more than enough to make up for the 90% from Precision Intensify. And then one thing to note though is you do actually just have lower strength because now you're using this instead of augmented. So I mean, once again, if you really wanted to put like Precision Intensify here instead, you can, but I find, especially for this build, because it is heat-based, and because our companion has heat on the claws, you get mecha nukes and contagious bond heat nukes very often with this build, so works out very well. Again, if you want to run Archon Stretch here, you can. Besides that, basically the same as the last build. I'm just going to constantly be casting and applying heat. And yeah. Now for the third build, as you can see by the name, this is a build based on solely just buffing Hema and using it as a Hema weapon platform. So if you don't know why, it's because Hema got a augment that gives us a very 360% critical chance and critical damage. When it drains your health, it drains 360 health max. However, it cannot bring you below 50% health, so you need to have at least 720 health for this to work. I also have a decent ribbon for it, but if you want to put anything you want here, you can. You can put Serration for the damage, or more crit chance, status chance, whatever. But yeah. Besides that, acceleration to increase fire rate to the Hema, Crepuscular for that 3 times final crit damage, as well as 30% ability strength. Transformation for the 200% element. Yeah, the element is that you want to cast is your choice. If you wanted to, if you wanted to say hell with it with all the duration shards, as you really just need 300% duration with Evade for it to be comfortable, you could replace all the duration shards and put down like toxin damage shards, and then just subsume, or so not subsume, but use Toxin for your Valence formation, and then with that extra Toxin damage, your Hema would be doing crazy damage. You're doing Viral Corrosive Heat Toxin. I typically, however, just do Heat to add on to the heat I already have to it, and that still does crazy damage. again using Archon continuity because we are still going to be using R1 mainly to activate the Advanced Formation as it has the lowest cooldown. So we will still be applying some Toxin. As I said before, we already have a lot of duration, so these two mods very much are not needed. I'm running Nearest Hatred just to get us to 1,000 health, because without it we do still have 800 health, but it's going to be draining 360 health, so we'll only be left with 440 health, and even though we are invisible and status immune, just in case an enemy randomly shoots you, I'd rather have that extra health. But yeah, Augur Message very much is flexible for whatever you want. If you wanted to put like Streamline there for more efficiency for whatever reason, you can, but I find just getting as much duration as you can for Evade is typically the best. But yeah, these two, it's whatever you want to use, just using these because this is kind of thematic and works kind of well with it, and Compressa, I don't know, just wasn't using it on much else. When I made the build, actually, I'm using quite a bit of builds now, but yeah. As for the build, this is the build I use. You can also, like I said, use Synth Deconstruct, which I think I will actually use Synth. No, I'm gonna stick with Duplex Bond. It's up to you. If you want to put Synth Deconstruct somewhere, like instead of Hunter Recovery, you can. But yeah, the only reason is Synth Deconstruct will make it so more orbs are dropping, so you will just be getting more status immunity, but I never really noticed it before, and this is the build I've always used, so don't really need it. And Duplex Bond makes it so your claws are applying more heat, and heat ownership works weird, so it'll still count for contagious bond nukes. Another reason why I use heat for Advanced Formation is because of that weird heat ownership, which if you don't know, I'll explain it while we learn to the mission. But if you don't know, the way heat works, heat ownership is whoever applies the first heat stack owns all the rest of the heat that is applied to an enemy. So if my Kruber were to hit an enemy once and then I was to apply 1,000 heat stacks, technically the Kruber would own all 1,000 of those heat stacks, so when it died 2 heat, it would then trigger the Companion's Contagious Bond. So this is the gas build. As you can see, already just triggered it just from the heat from the Hema there. One thing to note is that even though I am not invisible on this build, because I'm using Hearst Kubro, I still will be invisible, and since this is just a spam cast build, we will still be basically staying invisible 24/7. As you can see, you press 2, 10 stacks of gas on everything, and everything sort of just disappears. Where are these enemies spawned at? Over here. You know, your 1 and your 2 will basically always be up, so you're kind of spamming those for the most part, and then whenever your 4 and your 3 comes up, you use them as well. As you can see, it can be kind of hard to find enemies, because Sickening Pulses, since you're using such a high range, your 4 and your Sickening Pulse have such a high range that kind of kills enemies very far away. Yeah, as you can see right now, we're kind of just waiting for ability cooldowns, but since we're invisible, it doesn't matter too much. As you can see, yeah, these guys have 1 stack gas, 1 stack corrosive, and then you do Sickening Pulse, and it maxes, well, not maxes, but it gives them 10 of each. But yeah, 2 other builds to do, so I'll move on to the heat build now. Very similar, but heat-based, and because we are using 4 sets of mecha, it does move a bit faster because we are getting those mecha hits, and as well as we are getting contagious bond hits more often. So let's swap to that. Oh, where am I? Swap to mecha heat. And because we are only using 2 out of 3 on the gas build, if you really want to, you could just replace that mecha, the mecha ore with like corrosive projection or whatever ore you want. Because as I said, you aren't really getting mecha hits too often with that build. So one thing to note for this build is that because we are using impetus, you do want to cast one like thing of each ability first, just so you can get all of the statuses, and then once you do get impetus 9, you just have to reapply any status, and it works. Let's put 1 and 4. As you can see there, that was a contagious spawn nuke already. Or mecha, I'm not sure. So let's do 1, 2, not sure if I did that already. 2, and then we will do 2 and 3. And then we'll do 3 and 4. And now we have 9 stacks of impetus, so now we just stick to only doing heat. I like this build also because since we're not using Subsume, we get access to R2, which is very fun to skate around with. And as you see, there was either a mecha or contagious spawned.
All manner of Orican technology may work here due to the Circulus's proximity. If you have a necromech, you may use it.
Let's go up here. One thing to note is for your 2, you control it with your arrow keys, not your mouse. So. Oh yeah, that is basically it for this build. Similar to the last one, except for because you're spamming heat. And heat can trigger contagious spawn and mecha bond better. It kind of ends up being a little bit faster, killing enemies a bit quicker. But yeah, that is it for this build. Let's go on to the weapon platform, or Hema. Which I should mention, this basically can be used for any weapon. I just use it for the Hema because might as well. Now because we are not, I'm just going to stick with the Heroes Kubro, but because... Actually, no, I'll swap it. I will swap it to something like the Panzer. Because since we are not using Mecha Set on this build, as well as we are not using... or we already have invisibility from Evade, we don't need to use Heroes for anything. And basically the only other reason you'd want to have Heroes is for Contagious Bond, but I find having just the Vial Priming is better from Panzer. Or, you know, if you want to put Contagious Bond on your Panzer, you could also just do that. But first here, we are actually not going to have our Hema buff until we reload for the first time. As you can see, I already have 50 seconds on my thing here. But let's cast our, get our 200% valence. Let's reload our Hema and get our Hema buff. And you will see, this does very good damage. And the other reason why I use Panzer with this build is because Hema will be draining 360 health every time we reload. We want the Panzers with Hunter Recovery and its spores to basically be healing us whenever we reload. As you can see, this does really good damage. I already saw one shot there doing 2.7 million. As you can see, our health goes down and then instantly healed up because of our Panzer there. And like I said, if you want to have a passive armor stripping, just casually use your 1 every once in a while. As you can see, didn't do too much, only gave him like 1 or 2 stacks of corrosive, but that still does strip armor, which does still matter. A full armor strip equates to a 10 times damage multiplier, so even just doing that little bit could be up to like a 2 times damage multiplier. Yeah, that's basically it for this build. Sort of just running around through Hema, holding down 4 to get heat, and then casting Ophidian every once in a while. And like I said, if you wanted to do Toxin, you could also do Toxin. So if I cast 3 now, I'll swap over to Toxin. And then with Toxin, you could run the Toxin damage shards. But yeah, up to you what you want to do with it. Yeah, that is basically it. Thank you for watching.